7:30 on this Thursday morning's OTB AM, the sports breakfast show from off the ball, with you live until 10 o'clock this morning. Loads to come between now and 10 o'clock. We've got Kathleen McNamee on the way at around 7:45. Live again from Brisbane, 1 week out from the start of the World Cup down under. Can't wait for that. 8 o'clock, a bit of a treat. Preview of the Dublin Monaghan All-Ireland semi-final.
No bias, Shane. No bias.
Paul Finlay, a hero of mine growing up, I have to say, in Monaghan, and J.O. Sherlock as well to give the Dublin side ahead of that game.
I just love that. Paul Finlay, a hero of mine growing up, and then Jason Sherlock.
Let's get
it out there.
Centre.
Is that bias? Alan Quinlan will be on the way as well at 8:25 to look ahead to the World Under-20 Championship final between Ireland and France tomorrow evening, with the sports news at 8:45 or so. And Eric Lawler, the comedian, You Had to Be There, on the way around 8:55, 9 o'clock as well. So a load of great picks from him. Darren O'Sullivan and Colm Boyle, by the way, from last night's show, writing off Monaghan's chances against Dublin this weekend. They'll be on the way from 9:30. Similar to Colm O'Rourke, by the way, Dublin v Kerry final is inevitable. I don't want to talk about that because I don't want to get annoyed on a Thursday morning. But Colm Boohey, good morning.
Hi, how are you?
And Johnny Ward, good morning.
Good morning, Shane.
How are things? How are we keeping?
Well, what you do
I know,
since I saw you last?
You're going to ask me. You want to know if I've seen the Wham documentary?
I can't believe you.
I still haven't watched it.
I can't believe you. Do you know what happened? Sorry, can I tell you? I went on Today FM yesterday afternoon to talk about Wimbledon. That was the invite, to talk about Wimbledon.
And you ended up, let me guess.
And not alone that, Ray Foley was like, Club Tropicana is an amazing song, and played the whole thing, right?
Right, fair enough.
But if you listen to that song, it starts very slowly for the first 60 seconds. It's a guy getting out of a car. It's not even musical. Right. And then the bass starts.
Right.
So that took over. And then people started commenting in, being like, yeah, it's amazing.
Same
documentary.
as the Bridges chat the other day.
And Brian Wise, huge fan of the show, Cork man who lives in Toronto, watched Wham. Brian doesn't even like music.
Oh, right. I've no doubt I love the documentary when I watch it. It's just that I haven't had time this week to watch it, but I will watch it. Do you know?
Why didn't you give me some advance warning about the Wham chat?
Did you watch it?
No.
Come on.
I didn't even know it existed.
Johnny, this is Thursday, right? So the fourth day of the week. I get given out to by producer Colm here if I have a tangent of 20 seconds on something random, right? It's the fourth morning in a row that he's brought up this Wham documentary. And some mornings it was borderline 7-8 minutes of conversation.
It's completely it's taken over. Netflix, you will love the Wham documentary. Comment in here from Rory Darmer. Paul Finlay did my garden in Monaghan. Fun fact.
That's Tommy Freeman did my attic in Monaghan. So Monaghan legends.
That's why it's all intertwined.
It's all intertwined.
Paul Finney's some footballer now, in fairness. I am looking forward to that.
Fantastic.
And your man Sherlock. You did send me a great clip during the week about an Irish guy in the 60s. I mean, I've sent that around the WhatsApp circuit, and there's been a great reaction.
I've seen this one.
I can't believe I never sent it to him.
Yeah, and there's a documentary there. But I mean, that's...
Fill people in, so we don't want to be too vague for people who haven't seen it. What are we talking about here?
David Attenborough meets this guy who basically lives in the wild, but there's a backstory. It's like, how did he end up out here? So he's living in the wild in what was an old kind of abandoned town almost in
Australia.
Yeah.
Northern Territory.
He's clearly an Irish accent, but it's kind of hard to know where he's from in Ireland. Turns out he's from Kerry because Colm did a bit of research.
Yeah.
But he comes out with these unbelievably profound and kind of erudite lines about life and just living on his own. And David Attenborough was like, well, what, you've no money, and he goes, what would I need money for? I'm happy, I always want to see what's over the next hill.
Yeah,
I thought that was a lovely line. And in the sense of, because I mean, half of my WhatsApp chats now seem to be on about the climate, but I think we were talking about the climate and you sent that back to me, and it was like, this man knew in the 60s how to live, and we didn't need to live this mad life of...
Just the guy who was asked about are you lonely, and he was talking about all the books.
W. Watts, and he was like, I read a medical book and I thought I had every disease under the sun. And he was a part-time prospector looking for gold and whatnot. And then Dave Attenborough said, well, if you find that you become really, really wealthy, wouldn't you be delighted? And he said, no, it's not about that. I'm prospecting for contentment.
What do you type in on YouTube for people who are unfamiliar? What would you type
David
in?
David Attenborough, 1963.
Jack Mulholland.
Jack Mulholland. Also, Attenborough was a dish. What a handsome.
He was a handsome geezer.
I mean, beautiful.
He was. He really was.
It's so weird seeing a young David Attenborough.
And a good interviewer, because normally he's interviewing animals.
Exactly. That's so true. That's a really underrated takeaway from the video, is that he's a brilliant interviewer.
He is. Do you know what I took away from it as well? There's only one species in the world that recognises money, right? The rest are getting on fine without money. They don't even know what it is. This lad was getting on fine without money as a human. But there was a backstory as well. So that, without giving it away, I think Colm's going to documentary on Jack Mulholland.
I think
it's so fascinating.
It's mad.
Honest to God, how he ended up there.
Presumably he's long gone. Jack Mulholland.
Yeah, like he's probably in his 50s in that video. And that's
but Attenborough isn't, and this is the mad thing.
Have his autograph, David Attenborough. It's framed on the it's in my bedroom at home in Monaghan, and it's framed. It's on the desktop.
David Attenborough, the geezer that was on the moon.
Buzz, all of them. Yeah, Paul Finlay. I actually did have a jersey signed with Paul Finlay back in the day.
Still have it?
Probably do still have it. There was Paul Finlay provided the one with Anthony Moyles, and I'll bring this up with Paul today. 2005 Division 2 National League final. They're 2 points up. Ref tells Paul Finlay, who's 35 metres out from goal with the ball in his hand, this is the last kick of the game, and he's like, we're 2 points down. So Paul Finlay nonchalantly, lovely left boot, drops the ball into the square, thinking, right, someone just try and knock it in. Mark Ward, the Meath defender, and Monaghan fans will know exactly what I'm talking about here. Banty was the Monaghan manager and Sean Boylan was the Meath manager, and Mark Ward, sorry Mark, but he tries to fist the ball over the bar so that it's only a point and Meath win by a point, because they all know this is the last kick, but he directly punches it into his own goal.
I kind of vaguely remember this. Bringing the Ward name into vain as well.
Pandemonium, the Ward name into vain. But Monaghan had civic reception. This was before Monaghan had any sort of success really of this era. Obviously in the 80s they had plenty of success, but Division 2 title. Lots
of tangents, but that does remind me of like the best like last ditch goal I've ever seen in Gaelic football, which was against the man's county beside me, Declan Meehan against Cork. And it was the ultimate tragedy of Declan Meehan's inter-county career that was the last kick of the game. It wasn't enough for Galway. He never won All Ireland with Galway, despite the unbelievable talent of the man and the family. But that goal, and I remember they had about 20 people on the line. I'm exaggerating obviously, but he still found a way to
top right corner.
And I was like, how is this not like to clinch a game like that?
So they must have been 4 points down.
They were 4 down, and the ref blew it up after.
One of the best players to never win in All Ireland.
But like he was.
Conor McManus is obviously in the conversation.
In fairness, absolutely. He was I know Joe Canning was on with, or Ollie Canning rather was on with John Duggan recently. Ollie and Declan Meehan were the Galway, for me anyway, the two greats that didn't win All Ireland. Michael Meehan and Ollie Canning were the two greats. But I'm sure Michael, I met him recently. He's doing a little bit of underage coaching at home, I think, with his daughter, and he did all right with Caltra as well. So I think he's happy out.
Jesus, yeah. There's some list of players that never won one, isn't there? Like Dermot Early Senior that never won one.
Yeah, he wouldn't have won All Ireland because Roscommon haven't won since the 40s or something.
Yeah, they got to the final in 1980, was it? Certainly the early 80s.
They were comfortably up against Kerry and kind of blew it. He was a great footballer, and then I'm sure that'd be a good thing to get people going. It's one of the best player never to win All Ireland.
I'm obviously going to lie in the Conor McManus camp here, but there are a lot of names there that you'd be like, Jesus.
Conor McManus still has a chance, though. This is the thing.
Still a chance this year.
This is the thing. Not according to Colm O'Rourke.
No, not according to most of the papers this morning.
Speaking of there's a chance, Pats' goal last night, 94th minute.
Mark Doyle.
What?
In the back of the papers there, if you can see it. Doyle keeps Saints alive. Mark Doyle celebrates after scoring St Pat's injury time goal. They're 2-1 defeat to F91 Diddling in the first leg of their Europa Conference League, first qualifying round. This is in Luxembourg last night.
I'm not sure if the photographer is referenced there. I don't know. I know the odd photographer,
Jerry Schmidt from Sports.
Jerry Schmidt. So I'm sure photographers at times they probably get annoyed that their photos don't get great recognition. There was a photo from Pats in Cork the other night. I was at that game, and it was Tunde Olabi being manhandled by Sam Curtis, who's 17, like literally had his hand on his throat, but it wasn't even free. It was just one of these physical moments in the games. Amazing photo, but that photo makes it look like it was in a proper stadium, because this was in a really tiny little ground in Luxembourg, effectively up on a hill. And it was just such a massive moment, I think, for Mark Doyle and also for John Daly, because John Daly made 4 substitutions. I'm just looking, 70 minutes he brought on 2 players. He brought on Jason McClelland on 81. Owen Doyle was the marquee signing that Pats made a couple of years ago, and Mark Doyle, his namesake, sort of came in around the same time, a little bit unheralded, but he's done very well. And this goal, I think, Shane, could be massive, because like I watched it in Inchicore Rascals Brewery. I might as well mention they sponsor our League of Ireland podcast. It was lovely to go up with the Pats fans and watch it on the big screen. Is that okay? Just I want to put it out there that like I'm not.
You've done it now.
Anyway, so craft beer and all that is great. But watched it anyway there.
Other craft beers are available.
So they put on the big screen, and people had sort of stopped almost like giving up on the game a bit, and 2-0 down. He gets this goal last kick, and it almost changed the whole League of Ireland and Europe narrative, because I was at Tallaght the other night. Shamrock Rovers were so poor. I was bitterly disappointed with them, and I know essentially they played 3-5-2 with two wing backs who had no pace. Their two wing backs are injured, but they were so undimensional from the get-go against Icelandic opposition that are okay, but they really should be beaten in my view. And if Pats had lost 2-0 last night against another team that they were expected to beat, this is disappointing. But Mark Doyle's goal completely changes the narrative, and now we have Derry and Dundalk in action this evening.
So progression will guarantee €550,000 in UEFA prize money, so this could be a huge goal. Like 350 Pats fans, I'm reading here, travel through London and Brussels to this small Luxembourgish suburb, so that'll be a huge game. And look, if they can return them back to Dublin and get a win in that game, and $500,000 is not to be sniffed at for the League of Ireland.
No, it's huge. And Pats went on a good run in Europe last season, culminating that game against Sofia in Tallaght, where they were really unlucky and beat them away, which was a brilliant achievement. And it's all about momentum as well, Shane. Like this was not a good Pats performance, really. They were lucky, very lucky, to come away with a 1-goal deficit, but it changes everything, and I kind of would fancy them to do the job in Dublin. This team is out of season, so it's only another week for them. Pats are in the middle of the season. They've had a lot of momentum in the league. They've good players, but it really did change the way, League of Ireland, because we're never that far off in Irish football from an existential crisis. And I think all of the League of Ireland WhatsApp groups last night would have been the League of Ireland's actually crap. We're over egging it. Rovers were rubbish. They haven't scored. Pats looked like they weren't going to score against Luxembourg opposition. Mark Doyle changed everything, I hope.
Some comments coming in the YouTube. Keep it coming in, by the way, between 9 and 10 o'clock. The best player to never win an All-Ireland, Matty Ford, says Joseph Comerford. Kieran McDonald says Spectacor. My brother Dara Hannon's in Vietnam right now. He's commented, greatest player to never win one was Parchi Sung. Sorry, Lee Keegan.
I was just going to say Lee Keegan.
He's an obvious
Lee Keegan. And Kieran MacDonald, talent wise, was...
Remember that was mad, that debate.
Which
Park versus Lee.
Well, it was... I stand by it. It wasn't even a debate. I just compared Lee to Parchi Sung. Two brilliant.
Lee Keegan.
Because I said they're both big
never
game
won
players.
All-Ireland,
Well, no. Well, Park didn't win an All-Ireland either, but both big game players. Both came up, both were the man marker. So Park would have man marked Andre Pirlo and had lads in his pocket in big games. Lee Keegan, I can't believe I'm doing this again. Lee Keegan would have been the same against the Dubs. He would have had to mark, the big lads.
One found it disrespectful to Lee Keegan's talent.
Some people found it disrespectful when it was intended as a compliment massively.
Yeah.
Both very fit, both remarkable. By all accounts, Parchi Sung at that period was the fittest person in the United squad, and Lee Keegan, by all accounts, the fittest person in that Mayo team. So it was meant as a compliment. So people can take it whatever way they want, and they will. But your luck. Load of messages as well, columnists, I have to say, on Wham. Kieran McGreal, this Wham documentary is pushing the RTE scandal for the most talked about topic this week. You're not wrong there. Mark Goldbridge is my favourite bridge, says Hank Schrader. Not Hank Schrader from Breaking Bad, I'd imagine. So someone else says, JP Wright, voice actor, you're always anti-Monaghan biased, JP, come on. More chance of Andy going back to Shawshank than Dublin not winning on Saturday. No, I'm not having that. Welcome to Monaghan FM, he says. Tune in for all things Monaghan. Yeah, channel 047, which is the Monaghan telephone code. See what they did there?
047.
047. No, sorry, North Monaghan telephone code. 042 is for South Monaghan. So no disrespect to South Monaghan, of course, as well. GAA did not get consumer watchdog clearance. Inquiry opened as controversial online service was only approved for overseas viewers and not for Irish audiences. So we had the GAA discussion in the Oireachtas yesterday. We had the future of football discussion in the Oireachtas yesterday. So sport is turning to the front pages.
Yeah, I think the future of football one's an interesting one to talk about, because all hands are on deck with the GAA goal stuff. Basically, I mean, it was about sports broadcasting and the future of it, but obviously that is what dominated. The one big takeaway is that they might consider reducing the €12 one-off price for a GAA goal match, but a season ticket is very valuable good value for money.
Yeah.
Now, the Ian O'Riordan side of it, he went into the dial and was talking about funding for football in Ireland, and it's something you've been talking about for a long time when it comes to facilities.
Yeah, in fairness to Aon, again, without plugging our podcast, we had him on and he was very, very good. He spoke really well, and as much as there are probably political points to be scored for him, I do think that he's very genuine in this. But it's weird that the most participation sport in this country, that's been really, we've been absolutely immersed in football since the Italian 90s, since I was a kid, and I can't speak for earlier than that it feels like a second-class citizen in this country for so long. And I think there are a myriad of reasons for that, but I did like Dan's line at the end where he's like, This included Michael Lowry seizing a window to defend horse racing, Danny Healy-Rae wishing Kerry all the best against Derry in this weekend's All-Ireland, and Matty McGrath raising John Delaney's name in the context of offering condolences in the recent death of his father Joe. Elite, self-serving time wasting is a feature of the political game at this level. Football's challenge is to capitalise on an opportunity to effectively work the back channels. And it's a good kind of summation of the rubbish of Irish politics. You remember John Delaney when he was before the Rocks Committee, and the Healy-Rae love for him, and at a time when football was crumbling. And it does feel that we're a second-class citizen. I do feel a sea change, though. I mean, Micheál Martin was on with Joe here a few years ago, and I think that was the first sign where actually the League of Ireland might have some friends in power. And I think in terms of the next election as well, with what it looks like a Sinn Féin-led government, I think football is going to be in a better place. But we've a long, long way to go.
Yeah, it's hard to care about everything, but a lot of politicians seem to care about so little. Yeah. And like from what I've got this week is that like there are a few who are really good at questioning and really do have clear passion for what they're talking about and what they're debating. But so many of this, and you saw it in the RT stuff there on Tuesday too, with Ryan Tubridy and Kelly, like, is that like you don't even care about these questions you're asking. I'm talking about the deputies now. I'm not talking about Tubridy.
Yeah.
And they just want to be seen to be doing this. And also I'm thinking this is pure pageantry. This is just all performative. Nothing's going to come for this. Like, it's just well, at least we did it. We were transparent about it, that we asked these questions.
Watch, isn't it?
And I have a huge amount of time for the fact that Aon O'Riordan brought this to the Dáil yesterday, but it's very difficult. Like, there were screen grabs of the extremely low attendance figures because it was clashing. So it's never it's a beautiful synopsis actually of the treatment of football in the country, and that we're a football mad loving country, that we don't actually treat it as such when it comes to it.
In these Oireachtas debates and committees, I'd have respect for the politicians who ask short questions, because they obviously are using up less time for the answer, and also the questions that, so Tubridy obviously made the point in the RTE one very early on. He said, this is nothing to do with my leaving the job, and whether you believe him or not, that he said that at the start. So every politician going back and asking him that question again, it's like he's not going to say anything different.
Yeah, you can edit your questions and also ask one at a time.
Exactly. It's just a waste of time. So yeah,
it is a good kind of mirror into Irish politics at times, particularly a lot of rural politicians. You're like, how did you get elected? But there is this card out there that like it's us against Dublin, and like I'm going to come up with stuff like, we're abandoned and wish Kerry the best in the All-Ireland. One other thing I should mention as well, which is significant. Sinn Féin, Luke O'Riordan would have a Sinn Féin Bows connection. I think would be very helpful in terms of getting Sinn Féin on the side of the League of Ireland. Sinn Féin sports spokesperson Chris Andrews followed up correctly, pointing out that a large number of football clubs cannot apply through the existing sports funding mechanisms championed by Thomas Byrne, because they don't own their facilities, and that's a big problem. So you actually don't qualify, because, and you'll have a lot of football clubs around the country that are kind of, they're living hand to mouth, don't own their facilities, and they can't apply, and that's a large minority as far as I'm aware. And one other thing, just when Shamrock Rovers played that crowd Reykjavik the other night, they have an amazing sports facility in Iceland. Like, and I was thinking, looking at these players, all part-time, all Icelanders, who were in a country of a population of 300,000, were well able to compete with Shamrock Rovers, and an awful lot of that is down to when Iceland did well in the Euros. They pumped all the proceeds back into facilities in Icelandic football. Didn't happen in Ireland because the FAI was broke.
Clearly bearing the fruits of that now, the Icelandic clubs versus the Irish teams, certainly.